Welcome to another episode of Home Sweet Home. My name is Rod McCall.
And I'm Scott Nichols.
I've been reading a book. It really caught my attention, and I was hoping, that's why I shared it with you, and you read it. And so if you're okay, I'd like to do a little deviation from our norms.
Okay.
And while we are definitely not a book review.
I didn't know we had norms.
Oh, well, okay. Well, you're right. I don't really think we do. But from our normal way of doing, our topics. But I wanted to, talk about this book that I read, I shared with you, you liked. But it's titled From Broken Boy to Mended Man.
Okay.
And it's by a guy by the name of Patrick Morley. And I stumbled across this purely by accident. I literally saw this on Facebook. And of course, I follow a lot of therapy websites, Facebook groups, and stuff like that. So it was from one of those that this came across my radar. Mm-hmm. And so I bought it. It was relatively cheap. It was like under $20, which is usually my threshold of whether I buy or not. Anyway, it was talking about how we as guys tend to parent. Okay. And, you and I have talked multiple times. We've talked, about the idea that dads are a critical part of a child's upbringing.
Yeah.
And also, I think both of us have experienced plenty of times where our parenting may either go along well with what our spouse wants or may go in a different direction of what our spouse wants, leading to either happy home or conflict.
Yeah.
And so what I liked about what Patrick Morley wrote was a deep dive into why we as men might operate the way we do, why we think and parent the way we do. And most of it comes back to the way we were raised.
Okay.
And so he brought up something that how do I want to say this? I guess I should have prepped my thoughts before I started speaking, a common problem that I have. But anyway, I liked that he was talking about how we have generational upbringing.
Right.
And no matter what we are consciously thinking, when we get frustrated, when we get stressed, when we get put into kind of a panic mode, as a parent, we usually default to how we were raised. Because we as parents, children follow what parents do. How they act, how they panic, what they say, and kids believe it, they parrot it, and we as adults are children's first teachers.
Right.
And predominantly are the longest lasting teachers. And so his exploration was into all of this.
Okay.
And so if we have trauma at home growing up, where dad was abusive, maybe dad was alcoholic, or maybe dad was absentee, or would come and go and come and go and come and go.
Sure.
All these kinds of things. And as a consequence, it influences us as kids, in particular us as guys.
Yeah.
And then we carry that over into our adult relationships and our role as a parent with our own children.
Yeah.
And so it kind of, when he was talking about that, I go, oh boy. And I start thinking about a lot of kids I know. And then that translates into, okay, what do I know about their parents?
Right.
And then I'm going, oh, you know what? You're right. There is a lot of that. If the adult dad didn't, came from a somewhat dysfunctional family, well, that might explain why he's dysfunctional and how he relates and interacts with his children is a little bit dysfunctional.
Right. Yeah. I mean, think that this is, I mean, I wasn't shocked by it in the book at all. I think that we've taught for years about political socialization and how kids learn things from their parents in those formative years. It's no different, right? You're learning not only what to think, but how to act from parents. It's not you're not born with any of this knowledge or actions inherently. So you learn it from somebody else. You mimic it. You get that from whoever seems to be the most predominant person in your life. Mm-hmm. And so this seems to be no shock to me. As I thought about it, it's also reflected in many of the world religions where they talk about the sins of the father carrying on through generations.
Yeah.
And that's the same thing, right? Like it just, you have to actually break that cycle somewhere along the way.
And that's what I found intriguing about the book was Morley's talking about the idea that we can break the cycle.
Yeah.
In fact, we kind of need to, but it comes to, and he provides a wide variety of ways, insights on how we can do that. And the one thing that I found most intriguing was the idea of forgiveness.
Right.
That you have to get to where you can forgive your parents for how they raised you.
Mm-hmm.
And early on in the book, he talked about that for a child to be healthy mentally, because again, you can physically be there.
Right.
You can provide food and shelter and clothing.
Yeah.
But kids need more than that if you want them to be, more than just something physical. For them to be mentally healthy, spiritually healthy, to grow up into successful adults.
Yeah.
And so what I liked is he made this comment, and he refers to it frequently throughout the book. And he says that for children to thrive, they need to have love, structure, roots, and wings.
Okay.
And he talks about the idea of roots or of love. He says that, and I'm quoting here.
Yeah.
That mothers give their sons grounding as well as a sense of well-being, but fathers give them confidence.
Right.
So if you have that love at home, the hug, the nurture, the I love you, kids will respond and be more grounded and be willing to explore and do some of these other things.
Mm-hmm.
He then goes on and says that kids need structure. They need boundaries. You and I see this all the time in the classroom. My clients that are coming to see me, some of the kids that I have are because there's not enough structure.
Right.
All right. Well, he says that structure basically comes down to this. Children need to know, yes, I love you, and no, you cannot have your way.
Mm-hmm.
Because, you've had kids, I've got kids. Their job is to test the boundaries. Just how far can they go before you hit, come down hard with the hammer saying no means no.
Right.
So you got to have good boundaries. He then says you got to have roots. He says, and again, I'm quoting here from the book, a healthy home has roots. Roots build character, persistence, determination, diligence, and resilience.
Mm-hmm.
They give you a place of, again, where do you come from? What is your place in the world?
Right.
And last, for wings, and this is what I liked, he says, we got to make our kids want to leave the house.
Right.
We want them to launch.
Yeah.
And hopefully not come back. I mean, come back around, but, we want them to go out and be on their own. And he says that when you can do this, it's our job as parents, to help them find those things that they love, whether it is academics, whether it's sports, whether it's, music or the theater, what's your skill, your talent, and take off on it. Take it and see where it goes.
Right. I mean, I totally agree with that. I thought this book was great. It's like you, and we talked offline about this at one point. I think that this, even though it's focused on boys, it applies across the board for parenting.
Yeah.
I don't think it's just boys, although it does kind of focus on the boys in general. But I mean, girls have the same issues, right? There's still abuse. You still have to love, provide structure, do all those things. It's all the same. And that's part of what I liked about the book. As I reflected back onto, like how did I do this? Cause, my kids are adults.
Yeah.
Beyond the quarter century mark. So, I have to think back a little bit, and I've been converting some home movies and stuff. So that's kind of fun.
Yeah.
Looking at those things, but thinking back to how did I do these things? I mean, where did I do well and where did I not do well? And I think that it comes back to the first thing is, am I being intentional?
Okay.
That's what I think. I think that you have to be intentional with what you're doing. I think that a lot of, if I think of people that I know that have had abuse or those kinds of things happen, and then they perpetuate that, I feel like it's just like life is just happening to them. And there's not an intentionality behind, oh, what do I do, right?
So they're reacting rather than directing.
Yeah. I mean, when my wife and I got married, we talked about how would we raise kids.
Yeah.
And part of that was we thought of how we were raised and, what kinds of things happened. And to some extent, we said, what we're going to do? We're going to do the opposite.
Okay. Yeah.
And we are going to intentionally address the things that we thought were issues in our being raised and do it differently, intentionally. And so I think that that's a thing that maybe a lot of people don't consider.
And that, my question to you, and I think that's a conversation that happens a lot. My one question, and I think that's one of the things that is brought up here in Morley's book. And by the way, I just want to put out there, we are not getting anything to talk about this guy's book. Sure. It's not like we're getting as a paid advertisement or anything. But what he was saying in here, and I know from my own experience, there's a lot of truth. We can have our design, but when we get into a stressful situation, do we remember our desire to be opposite of our parents, or do we, in a moment of frustration, a moment of anger, when it just happens and triggers, do we have that as our default setting that we go back to without intentionality?
Yeah. I mean, I think that definitely happens, but I think if you've set up, especially between, parents, the two parents, if you've set up that agreement about how you're going to raise kids, that's a structure, right? And then you can hold each other accountable to that. And I think that helps. Does it eliminate everything? No. I mean, parents, we're all new at this, right? Every parent is new at it. There's no manual for it.
No. There's
nothing. Like, your kid is different and you are different, and nobody can write that manual but you. And you're not going to know what the result is until you're done with it. And you're almost never done with it. So it's just,
no,
it is what it is. So, but we talk about love, structure, roots and wings. Like, how do you provide structure if you don't have a structure yourself?
Very good.
Right. So you can't just be like letting circumstances run your life and not have a plan or not have some kind of intentionality behind what you're doing, and then expect everything to come out good on the other end. No, it's going to be chaos, right? Chaos will beget more chaos.
Well, and that's where I thought, I like the conversation that's had when they talk about the masks that we wear, that to different people, we are different things.
Yeah.
And I know that I've been there many times. I mean, I do when I was at school,
right,
Mr. McCall, and that was an identity that I had. But when I left there, when I wasn't in front of the kids, then I could just be Rod. But depending on which group of people I was with was the different kind of Rod. I mean, when I'm at home with my family, I can't be the same Rod that I am when I'm hanging out with you and our friends from, our social circle. Mm-hmm. And then again, different social circles. You act differently. And so trying to find that congruence of you're the same person across the board, no matter who or where you're at.
Yeah.
Is a challenge. And so sometimes what they were saying here in the book that I thought was very accurate is a lot of times when we're raised in a dysfunctional home, we put on different masks to deal with the different personalities of parents. And we carry that then on into adulthood.
Sure. I mean, we know that, right? From education, mm-hmm. You know, that if there's a child that's acting out in mm-hmm. school, it might be because they can't do that at home.
Oh, amen.
Right. So
amen.
They, they're scared to do that at home sometimes. And so they act out at school. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's not 100% for everybody, but it's one of the things that can be looked at. So, we do act differently, I think, based on circumstances. I think humans are generally prone to chameleon style, right?
Sure.
Where you kind of adapt to whichever social group you're at.
And that can be good, but sometimes it can also be very detrimental because you're not taking ownership of actually who you really are. You're pretending you're like an actor. You're acting for the role, but it's not really who you are.
Sure, but there's still some base, level of yourself that's always going to come through in every single scenario. And I think that's what we're getting at. Like whatever you've learned in those formative years from the adults that you were around, now that's going to come out. And so maybe you act a little bit differently. Maybe there was some abuse in your home, and when you go into some social circles, you act a little bit docile. But then when something gets your hackles up, forget it, right?
Okay, yeah, I see your point.
It's going to come out, and so some of those things are still going to show up at different mm-hmm. times, and I think that's important as parents to realize that we need to do the best that we can. And the best that we can is not just letting life happen and fly by. Mm-hmm. The best that we can, it means intentionally considering that the things that we do, the actions that we have a lasting effect on that small human that we're raising.
And that's what I like about a large chunk of this book is that Morley says that you can take ownership of this. Mm-hmm. If you recognize that you were raised in a dysfunctional home, that the healing you can, as you were saying earlier, you can literally turn the switch, and that begins first by taking ownership, saying, you know what? I was raised mm-hmm. in a way that I don't believe is the way to raise children. And he says by taking ownership, it's not a sign of weakness. It's actually a sign of strength, saying that, you know what, I am going to stop this generational child rearing that, because, and it's like, if your parents raised you a certain way, odds are it was because that's how they were raised.
Sure.
And so the idea that we can change starts by recognizing and taking that ownership, like what you were saying before. You and your wife had that conversation early, and you held each other accountable so that if you did kind of go to a default settings, like, wait a minute, we said we weren't going to go here. Mm-hmm. And so I like the things that they talk about that, one, if you recognize what you want to do, you can do that.
Yeah.
But then that's where I was saying earlier, he talks about forgiveness. You got to forgive. And I cannot stress just how powerful that is. Forgiving.
Right.
When people wrong you, you can hold on to that hurt. You can hold on to that anger.
Yeah, it's pretty important.
But at the same time, you're giving that person power over you. And if you're trying to get rid of or change the direction in which you're going, forgiveness is not about them.
Right.
It's about you. And you're saying, I'm not giving you power over me anymore. And so forgiveness was a huge part of what I found, at least in the book.
Yeah.
And so, and then they were talking about, again, I don't want to go into the whole religious connotation on this, but the idea that, finding religion can help you because it can, having that faith community can help put you on the right path and show you that there is a better way. And here's kind of how.
Yeah. I mean, that provides a foundation for beliefs and things. So it's been widely used throughout history as a social control mechanism, right? To be able to have norms in society and things like that. So there's nothing bad with that. It's religion has been a foundational part of most people's lives one way or another for a long time. So that's good. But yeah, you've got to have that foundation and you've got to stick to it and you've got to take the ownership. I mean, I agree with all those things.
Well, they talk about the idea that you cannot heal in isolation. That when you are, you join, in this particular case, because we're talking about guys, but you join a men's group and you have that social, but you also have that camaraderie. You have that community feeling so that you're not feeling alone, because whatever you're feeling, whatever you're experiencing, whatever you're going through, you're not the first person or the only person.
Yep.
There's a lot of other folks that have been there, done that. I mean, that's what I know I refer to it all the time, but the divorce group, it was exactly what Morley is talking about. It was a group of people that were struggling, going through the same thing at different levels, and you found strength in making changes in your life for the better because you had help.
Yeah.
And so that's what I liked when he was saying about this. It was not so much of, get religion. It was that religion, by its very nature of community, can give you that support.
Yeah. And I think that's important because one of the issues, I think, of our society today is a lack of community, right? We have all this social media, we have all this interconnectedness, and yet people are more alone than ever.
Well,
and that is a big issue. And I've noticed, as a school teacher with our Texas law that bars phones from school, it is amazing how much engagement and discussion and paying attention to each other everybody is doing. I mean, there are games in the cafeteria.
Okay.
People are because they can't even have them at lunch. So the students are talking to each other. They're engaging in class much more. They're looking up while they're walking down the hallway because they can't have their phone. So they actually say hi to you when they walk by you. I mean, things like that.
Okay. So they're not crashing into each other like we saw at our corner.
And I'm not a counselor and I don't have any leads on that, but I feel like in general, the general feeling is much better than it was before. And so I think that's evidence that social media creates an aloneness that is detrimental to our psychiatric health. Health. I mean, the actual mental health that we have. And so, that's something that, maybe even limiting that. We've talked about that before. But being intentional about whatever it is that you're doing. The other thing I was thinking was words. Words matter.
True.
And I think as boys, you grow up kind of like sticks and stones might break my bones, but names will never hurt me.
Right. But, I heard that a lot growing up.
But name calling is intended to hurt you. And in fact does hurt people.
Right. You can recite that mantra all you want, but it doesn't change the fact that it does.
I mean, you might try to convince yourself that it's not going to hurt you, but it will. And as parents, the words that we say matter. And you got to be careful with what you say. And I'm not talking about walking on eggshells. I'm just talking about choosing words carefully.
Well, and recognize your audience because, again, children are always listening. And so they pick up on what you say, both your physical words as well as your nonverbal body language.
Yeah.
So,
If I think of things that like interrupt love structure, roots and wings, right? Like words is one of those things.
true.
Words
No, good
definitely
point.
can interrupt love,
Very much so.
right? And actions, especially actions that aren't intentional, will interrupt structure.
Mm-hmm.
You know, all of the things that you do are setting roots. So you have the potential to set, you know, bad roots or good ones. Intentionally, you know, and then, you know, wings, you know, you have to have some positivity to get wings working, right?
Because
I
you
mean,
want
people
your
need
children-
lift.
They do.
Everything needs wings. Everything with wings needs lift, and lift in human life is positivity, right? It's affirmation. It's all those things that if you're not getting that as a child, I think you're gonna struggle with these things. And if you're not giving it as a parent, that's an issue, right, for the child.
I absolutely. It's yes. Thank you. I don't know that I could sum it up much better, because in the classroom, you and I've seen this. And the counseling office, I'm seeing it again in a different way.
Yeah.
But it's the same kind of thing. And so, again, that's why I found that this book again, I've been reading a ton of them. Well, not as many as you, but I have been reading a lot more.
I'm a little slower this year.
Are you? Okay. Well, it's not like you haven't been busy, but I like this one as it spoke to me in a way that many others had not.
Yeah.
And that we may have been broken to begin with, but we don't have to stay that way.
No.
And that we can help not just ourselves, but others as well.
Well, I think that's important too, is like no matter what stage as a parent, no matter what stage we're in our parenting. I mean, I said mine are over a quarter century now. So, but you might be 8 years in and realizing, oh, I didn't do this quite right. Mm-hmm. You can change now. Mm-hmm. That's not a big deal, right? Own it. Change it now. Your kid will love it. Right?
Yes.
And they will notice, and they will adapt to that. And there's still time to make that happen. If your kid's 25, you can change now, right? I mean, you can make those changes, and you can get help for yourself or your child if they need it. I mean, it's only when life is over is it over, right?
Yes.
All the help can be given. That's the great thing about these books, or being able to go to a counselor or whatever. Like we can adjust.
And that's why I'm glad you were okay with taking a little time today to talk about this book, because I found it very transformative and reached me on a whole bunch of different levels.
Yeah.
And I felt that it was worth talking about and sharing, so that, because it's worth an exploration. It's worth taking a look into. So.
Yeah. I mean, this is definitely it's a good book. I think it's as fast of a read as you want it to be.
Oh yeah. I read
Right.
it very quickly.
I mean, I think this is one that you could go back to and read it again.
Yes.
And take some notes. I mean, he's got some note sections in there. So I think it's a good one. And I know that it's, endorsed by Gary Chapman, who wrote the 5 love languages that we've talked about before too. So, and those are widely covered and discussed love languages that out there, both in the religious and secular world. So I think it's definitely worth a look, and we can put it in the show notes so that we, people can see where they can get it.
All right.
So.
Well, thanks again. I appreciate this. This was a fun conversation. I'm glad you decided to read the book with me.
Yeah, I appreciate
I did, but
I appreciate the recommendation.
But, all right. Well, then, until next time, I'm Rod.
I'm Scott.
See ya.
Bye-bye.